You know what nobody ever tells you when you're young and falling in love for the first time? They never tell you that some people are really, really good at making you feel chosen, right up until the moment they need you to feel confused. And by the time you figure out the difference between someone who genuinely loves you and someone who just loves the way you make them feel, you've already spent years of your life trying to hold water in your hands. I've been around long enough to watch good men, honest, hardworking, emotionally available men slowly lose themselves inside relationships that were never as solid as they believed. And what's heartbreaking is that most of them never even saw it coming, not because they were blind, but because fake love often feels real in the beginning. It's warm, it's exciting, it comes with all the right words at exactly the right moments, and that's what makes it so dangerous. So today I want to talk to you about something that doesn't get discussed enough. I want to talk about the quiet, almost invisible ways that emotional manipulation shows up in relationships, because it rarely looks like what you'd expect. It doesn't always show up as screaming or cruelty. Sometimes it looks like silence when you need reassurance. Sometimes it looks like a woman who suddenly becomes cold and distant the moment you stop chasing her. Sometimes it looks like love, wearing the mask of control. A woman who truly respects you will never use your emotions as a weapon against you. That's the truth. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because so many men have been conditioned to believe that emotional turbulence is just part of loving someone deeply, that if a relationship is painful and complicated, it must mean you really care about each other. But that's one of the most damaging lies that modern relationships are built on. Emotionally mature people understand this. Real love has tension sometimes, yes. Real love has disagreements and hard conversations and moments where two people have to work through something painful together. But there is a fundamental difference between a relationship that challenges you to grow and a relationship that keeps you permanently off balance so that you never feel secure enough to leave. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever been in a situation where everything felt fine between you and someone, and then out of nowhere, silence, cold shoulder, no explanation, and you found yourself running through every conversation in your mind trying to figure out what you did wrong? That feeling, that anxious, almost desperate need to fix something you don't even understand, that is not love making you feel that way. That is a power dynamic. And many good men ignore this red flag because they mistake their anxiety for attachment. Here's what's really happening in those moments, psychologically speaking. When someone withholds affection or communication without explanation, your brain starts working overtime to close that emotional gap. You become more attentive, more focused on them, more willing to apologize even when you did nothing wrong. And the person doing the withdrawing, whether they know it consciously or not, gets to feel in control. They get to feel needed and chased and important. And the cycle repeats itself every time they need that feeling again. Most people realize this too late, after years of operating in that cycle, constantly feeling like they're one wrong move away from losing someone they love. And by that point, the emotional exhaustion is so deep that even recognizing what's happening doesn't make it easy to walk away. Modern relationships are emotionally exhausting because we've normalized things that should never have been normalized. We've accepted hot and cold behavior as passion. We've accepted jealousy as love. We've accepted someone using your past vulnerabilities against you in an argument as just fighting dirty. But I want to be honest with you today, because I think you deserve someone in your corner who will tell you the truth. A person who truly loves you will never use the things you shared in your most vulnerable moments as ammunition later. Never. When you open up to someone about your fears, your insecurities, your old wounds, you're handing them something sacred. You're trusting them with the most tender parts of who you are. And a woman who respects you will guard that. She will hold it carefully. She will never stand across a room from you in anger and reach into that sacred space to pull out something sharp. This silent behavior says a lot about someone. The way a person treats your vulnerabilities when they're frustrated tells you almost everything you need to know about whether their love is real or whether it is conditional. Now, I want to be careful here, because I'm not talking about perfection. No one is perfect. Everyone says something in anger sometimes that they wish they could take back. That's being human. What I'm talking about is a pattern, a consistent pattern of making you feel small, confused, guilty, or unworthy whenever it serves the other person's emotional needs. That is not a bad day. That is a character trait. and it does not get better with more love from you. Trust me on that. I've watched too many good people try to love that kind of behavior into changing, and it doesn't work that way. Ask yourself this, and be honest, because you're only answering to yourself right now. When was the last time you felt completely at peace in your relationship? Not happy for a moment, not relieved that a fight was over, but genuinely, quietly at peace. The kind of peace where you don't have to wonder where you stand, where you don't have to perform or prove or apologize for existing. If you're struggling to remember that feeling, that tells you something important. A woman who genuinely respects you will make you feel secure without you having to beg for it. She won't make you chase clarity. She won't leave you guessing about where her heart is. She won't go silent for days and then reappear as if nothing happened, expecting you to just absorb it. Because a woman with emotional maturity understands that love is not a game where one person keeps the other person guessing just to stay in the position of power. Fake love is addictive. I need you to understand that. There's actually a psychological reason why toxic relationships can feel more intense than healthy ones, because the inconsistency triggers your brain's reward system. Every time the cold shoulder ends and the warmth comes back, you feel a rush of relief and connection that can feel almost like euphoria. And your brain starts associating that person with the peak of that emotion, not with the full reality of how they treat you. It's the same mechanism behind a lot of addictive patterns. And it's one of the reasons why leaving an emotionally manipulative relationship is so much harder than people on the outside can understand. Emotionally mature people understand this about themselves. They recognize when they're being pulled back, not because the love is real, but because the cycle feels familiar. And familiarity, as painful as this is to admit, can feel a lot like love when you haven't known much else. So what does real look like? What does it feel like when a woman actually respects you? It feels calm, not boring, calm. There's a difference. It feels like being able to say how you feel without bracing for impact. It feels like disagreements that end with understanding rather than someone keeping score. It feels like a person who, even when she's angry with you, still treats you with basic human dignity. A person who truly loves you will never make you feel like their emotional punching bag and then call it passion. She'll be honest with you even when honesty is uncomfortable because she respects you enough to believe you can handle the truth. She'll show up consistently, not just when things are good, but when things are hard and real and unglamorous. She'll communicate instead of disappearing, and she will never, never use love as a leash, pulling you in when she wants you close and pushing you away the moment you start to feel settled. If you're watching this today and something in you has been quietly hurting for a long time, I want you to hear this. You are not too sensitive. You are not asking for too much. Wanting to feel respected by the person you love is not a weakness. It is the most basic and reasonable thing a human being can want from a relationship. You don't need a partner who keeps you in a constant state of emotional uncertainty. You need someone who looks at you, really looks at you, and chooses you clearly without conditions, without games, without keeping you on a string just in case they need something from you later. Don't trade your peace for someone else's comfort. Don't shrink yourself down trying to fit inside a relationship that was never built to hold all of who you are. And please, don't confuse someone's need to control you with their love for you. Those are two completely different things. The relationship you deserve is one where you wake up in the morning and don't have to brace yourself, where love doesn't feel like a riddle you're constantly trying to solve, where you can be fully yourself, your full, complicated, emotionally honest self, and still feel completely safe. That kind of love exists. But you'll never find it if you keep pouring everything you have into something that was designed to keep you thirsty. Take your time with this. Think about your own life. Think about the people who have made you feel certain and the people who made you feel like you were always one wrong word away from losing everything. That difference matters more than any feeling of intensity or excitement ever could. You deserve loyalty that doesn't come with a hidden price tag. You deserve respect that doesn't disappear when someone is in a bad mood. And you deserve a kind of love that makes you feel more like yourself, not less. I hope something in this reached you today. If it did, I'd really appreciate you hitting that like button. It helps this message reach more people who might need to hear it. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to Wise Heart Talks, because this is the kind of conversation we have here regularly. Honest, deep, and always for people who take their emotional life seriously. Drop a comment below and let me know what this brought up for you. I read them, every single one. and your story matters more than you know. Take care of yourself out there.